Peace in the world in Coventry, a tree of peace for Coventry, a world growing a tree, stretching out and coming together in the War Memorial Park, marked by Lady Godiva, the Trust and Sisters. Communities decorating together, greeting in Hindi, Chinese, Farsi, Urdu, Gujarati, Punjab, Japanese, Russian, Norwegian, Ukrainian, Turkish, English, and so many more. And the word peace unites us, not just the word, but the thought, the word and the action, working hard, ever towards peace. And pieces of peace are placed on the tree, the same colour of red, united by our humanity, striving towards divinity. We place ribbons of peace in languages spoken, heard, loved and recognised, swaying from this Coventry tree. We sound out the words, we sing the words, we dance the words, we move with the words. Words in the world, whirling and speaking together, letting each have its space and turn, celebrating difference. Fear is in decay as the leaves fall and are placed by ribbons of love, written in faith and wound in string and hung from the branches of this peace tree in the park of remembrance of times of war, of times when peace was absent, when lives were lost in waged wars, when words could not negotiate difference, when wounds were inflicted open and humanity and respect ceased. Yes, this is our tree of peace in Coventry, bound by the ribbons tied together, our differences making a rich thread, where values we share in common communicate and celebrate our city of Coventry, communities rooted, growing together to make this peace tree. We circle and surround and sway around the roundness of the tree in the world as we go round this tree, dancing into and out of the peace of the tree. Poppies and doves and greetings placed on this Lady Godiva, Godiva Trust, Godiva Sisters World Tree of Peace. We do what we can, 2 meters apart, coming together, yet staying apart. At this time, how we need peace, prayers for peace, thoughts of peace, words of peace, action of peace, to achieve peace. For we cannot grow peace on our own. God, we pray to you in all our faiths for this tree in the world of Coventry, for peace to unite us.
Spreading knowledge through the light of faith. Yeah, Coventry's a type of place. We just want a peace of mind and an easy life, and that's why every night I pray. Spreading knowledge through the light of faith. Cause Coventry's a type of place. We just want a peace of mind and an easy life. And that's why every night I pray. Knowledge through the light of faith. Knowledge through the light of faith. Knowledge through the light of. Knowledge through the light of. Knowledge through the light of.
Knowledge through the light of faith. Honestly, I'd like to say the city that I live is always peaceful every night and day. But we all know that's really not the case. And there's a couple issues that we really gotta change.
But now it's time to focus on the positive. Forget about the hate that we create through all the politics. Life is easy when we work as a team. And when we're fighting, all we're doing is disturbing the dream, yeah.
They say my city is the city of peace. Come and join me on this journey, on a mission to lead. Look into my eyes, I'll show you all the vision I see. I got words of wisdom, I just hope you listen to me.
Spreading knowledge through the light of faith. Yeah, Coventry's a type of place. We just want a peace of mind and an easy life. And that's why every night I pray. Spreading knowledge through the light of faith. Cause Coventry's a type of place. We just want a peace of mind and an easy life. And that's why every night I pray.
Yeah, every night I pray. When it's dark, I ask the Lord to come and light my way. Cause I was just a kid up in the city with a dream and a vision, putting work and trying to find my place.
Now I found my place, so help you find yours. No time for the hate, because it's life short. It's time to leave the beef behind. We want peace of mind. Yeah, I'm trying to make you see the light.
Cause every day I pray for peace. I pray for unity and families in safer streets.
Tell the youngers make the most of their potential. Every lyric that I rap is straight facts. It isn't make-believe, it's time to reconcile because we're stronger together. And when we work in unison, I promise it's better. Check the history of strength in the city I live. We got hit by the blitz and came back stronger than ever. It's like
Spreading knowledge through the light of faith. Yeah, Coventry's a type of place. We just want a peace of mind and an easy life. And that's why every night I pray. Spreading knowledge through the light of faith. Cause Coventry's a type of place. We just want a peace of mind and an easy life. And that's why every night I pray.
Lord Mayor, Lady Mayoress, it's a real pleasure to welcome you to the Cathedral as part of your tour around the Coventry Peace Trail. The Cathedral, of course, has played a central part in this journey that we've shared together across the city in our work of peace and reconciliation, going back to the destruction of the Cathedral in the Coventry Blitz of November 1940. Of course, it was the response to that destruction by the Provost of the Cathedral, my predecessor, Dick Howard, which in many ways sparked this movement which captured the city and has now gone out across the world. The old cathedral was destroyed, as we know, on Thursday, November the 14th, 1940. On Christmas Day, 1940, the Provost led a service which went out across the British Empire in those days on the BBC World Service, broadcast from a chapel underneath the ruins, in which he said, "Hard as it may be, we are seeking to banish all thoughts of revenge from our hearts and to work together for a kinder, a gentler, a more Christ-childlike sort of world in the days beyond this strife." So the poignancy of that Christmas Day still seems to me to be very pertinent today as he launched this way of responding open-heartedly following destruction, both to those that had been parties to that destruction, but then also to those who've come to share with us in our journey in peace and reconciliation ever since. So a very warm welcome to the Cathedral today. You're going to have a wonderful time, and those viewing this film will enjoy, I hope, all the many poignant pause points here in and around the Cathedral as we continue to share in this journey, which has been running now for 80 and more years in drawing the world into a more peaceful and reconciled place.
Thank you, Dean, for that very thoughtful introduction. Lady Mayoress, Lady Godiva, Lord Mayor's Peace Committee. John has reminded me of the history of the Peace Trail. And we're learning as Lord and Lady Mayoress the importance of the cathedral in it and doing its part in Coventry, the city of peace and reconciliation. I would add friendship, multi-faith, multi-language, a strength that an imam told Lady Mayoress and I a couple of weeks ago at a Pan-African event. Many languages are spoken, and it shows what Coventry is all about, a city of peace and reconciliation. So I'm really looking forward to going on to the Peace Trail now, seeing some of the points of remembrance throughout the city. So I think it's about time that we went now and enjoyed those points of remembrance. Thank you very much, and perhaps at the end we'll have another conversation about what we experienced. So, well done. Thank you.
We would like to share the story of our Japanese Peace Garden. It all started 3 years ago when we started working together on a Cities of Peace project. We learned about no theatre, wrote peace poems on Tanzaks, and had a video conference with a Hiroshima survivor, and we performed in Coventry Cathedral.
In the final part of the project, we learned about Japanese peace gardens. We thought that it would be amazing if we could build our own Japanese peace garden for everyone in Coventry to enjoy. Peace and reconciliation are very important for our city, and we wanted to create a place for people to be peaceful. We are lucky that our councillor, Mutton, encouraged us and supported our project.
Firstly, we worked with Jeanette from Between the Stones to design our garden. We wanted to create 2 islands surrounded by sea. The islands can represent any 2 groups of people or 2 countries who have fallen out or who need to make peace with each other. We thought about links between Coventry and Hiroshima.
We decided to join the islands with a stone bridge. It's slightly unusual because the bridge is broken. We decided to use a broken bridge to symbolize how the path to peace and reconciliation is not always straightforward and you often have to overcome obstacles. We shared the initial design with Robert Ketchell, who helped us create the final plan.
Next, we had to find a site for our garden. We worked with Mr. Fox and Mr. Powell at the War Memorial Park, who helped us choose this beautiful space. We really liked the borrowed scenery of the settlers in the background.
Then the hard work began. Along with our classmates in Chill Construction, we dug the foundations for the wall. We found out that digging is great fun but very hard work. We also helped to pour the concrete into the foundations.
After that, we learnt a new skill, bricklaying. Builders from Shield Construction showed us how to build and render the wall. We are very proud that it's still standing. We also worked with Euphoria, who helped us with lots of jobs in the garden, including laying the paving.
One of our favourite days was when the boulders were delivered. We were amazed to learn that most of our rocks were from Scotland. They are all rounded and smooth to some extent, the result of glacial action during the ice ages. Pieces of rock are plucked from cliffs by water penetrating cracks and freezing. These are then carried by and within glaciers for many thousands of years, gradually becoming ground smooth. Once the glaciers melt, they are deposited in moraines and they are dug out of the ground.
Two of the largest boulders are gneiss, probably Lewisian, a widely found rock on Lewis. It is likely to be extremely old. Much has been dated back to about 3 billion years old. Some of the oldest rocks in the UK. The molten magma has been forced upwards and gradually cooled, but while still under pressure. Some of the solidified elements are still in the fluid medium, which causes the wavy striation as different crystals solidify at different temperatures.
The rocks in our garden represent many different things. The silver grey granite around the islands represents water. You will notice that one of our islands is a crane and the other is a turtle. These are very important in Japanese gardens as they represent longevity and good health.
During all this time, we worked with our friends from the Japanese Garden Society who were busy with jobs such as putting the roof on the wall. They taught us how to plant the yew hedging. We are very grateful that they gave us so much time to help us.
So that visitors could learn about our garden. We worked with Mr. Jenkins from Graphic Arts Design to design the information boards. We included some writing in Japanese to make the Japanese visitors especially welcome. We are grateful to the Sasakawa Foundation for their support with this.
One of our final jobs was creating a space for families to come and have picnics and relax together. We decided to plant a cherry orchard so that everyone could enjoy the blossom in springtime. We can't wait to see it flowering next spring. Maybe you'll come here for a picnic with your friends and families. Severn Trent Water kindly funded a lot of the planting and even came to make a film of us planting the trees.
After all this planning, digging, building and planting our garden was finished and now is ready for everyone to enjoy. We would like to say a very big thank you to everyone who has helped us, including lots of people who generously donated money. You have helped to create a garden that will be enjoyed for many people for years to come.
We think the Japanese Peace Garden is a wonderful place to come to be peaceful and calm. The construction of it took a long time, but the end product was worth it. The Peace Garden is a nice place to sit and remember all the good times you've had. Feels like the world has stopped in front of your eyes and lets you think about anything in your head. I really think I like the Peace Garden because it would be a nice place to come with your family.
We would now like to invite His Excellency Ambassador Hayashi and the Lord Mayor to speak before they officially open the garden. Thank you.
My name is Dennis Davison. I was born in 1923. I joined the Northamptonshire Regiment as a boy soldier. I was in the 2nd Battalion Northants, but then I got called up when I was 18 or 19. I thought I'd go in the infantry. I was enlisted in the Royal Army Service Corps, much to my disappointment. We just wanted to get on with the job.
Peace to me isn't defined by any single thing. Peace can be whatever people interpret it as. It can be showing respect towards each other, looking out for each other, helping another person.
Peace means there is no war. Peace means that you are happy and you feel safe.
And what would you say to the D-Day veterans?
As a collective, I would love to say thank you.
Peace means to me where you have no worries.
And what would you say to the D-Day veterans?
Thank you.
To remember D-Day is just so important because without those we wouldn't be here today. They're fighting for their country and risking their lives.
Today being commemoration of the 75th landing on Normandy beaches should drive home to everyone the need for peace on earth.
It's important that we remember D-Day because it was such a key turning point in the Second World War, which helped the Allies defeat Nazi Germany and the tyranny that was taking place at the time. Also, in terms of today, it's important that we remember how Europe was liberated and how young men and other people sacrificed their lives for the freedoms and democracy and unity that we have today.
Peace is an important thing to have in our world, and without peace we can't live together in harmony. So Dennis's passion is really about making sure that people learn the lessons from the past about what happens when people don't get on, where we've got racism and bigotry, and that we become people of peace. And that's what we want for all our young people at Cardinal Newman, to make sure that they understand the importance of being a person of peace, and that's why it's one of our key values at school.
Celebrate D-Day because it helps us remember our national heritage, and it helps young people to remember the sacrifice that our ancestors made.
But it was his dream to create a lasting legacy to the young men who gave their lives for our freedom in the apple orchards of Normandy, where much of the fighting took place. And the young people who gave their lives were not much older than some of you young people here today.
The cathedral ruins. St. Michael's Cathedral was destroyed from the air on the night of the 14th of November 1940. The only cathedral church in Britain to be lost in this way. The ruins stand not only as a powerful symbol of the impact of war, but also as a place of pilgrimage, visited by many thousands each year who see the ruins as a vision of hope in the world.
At the altar of the ruined cathedral stands a charred cross, a replica of two beams found lying in a cruciform shape in the rubble the morning after the destruction. On the wall behind it are the words, "Father, forgive," a plea directed not just at the aggressors, but also at those who suffered. A litany of reconciliation is said in the new cathedral at noon every weekday, and before this altar every Friday.
Reconciliation Sculpture, a work by Josefina de Vasconcelos, representing the reconciliation of those divided by war. It was donated to Coventry Cathedral by Sir Richard Branson in 1995 to mark the 50th anniversary of the end of the Second World War. Identical sculptures have been placed in the Peace Garden at Hiroshima, the Gardens of Stormont and in Berlin.
This is a sculpture called the Choir of Survivors, and it is dedicated to civilians who were killed or injured in aerial bombing during wars past and present. When the sculpture was unveiled in 2012, specific reference was made to German civilians killed in the Allied bombings in 1940 to 1945, particularly in Dresden. It is the work of contemporary German artist Helmut Heinze and was donated by the Frauenkirche Foundation of Dresden. The statue was unveiled by the Bishop of Saxony on Sunday, the 20th of May 2012, as part of the 50th anniversary events, which commemorated not only the work of the Peace and Reconciliation Ministry, but looking towards the future as the ruins were rededicated to be a permanent memorial to civilians killed, injured, or traumatized by war and violent conflict. David Porter, Canon Director for Peace and Reconciliation, commented, "Reconciliation can be said to have truly happened when we are able to memorialize the suffering of our enemies. It is the first permanent memorial to German civilians within the grounds of the cathedral."
Over the years, the Lord Mayor's Peace Lecture has seen our city welcome leading figures such as Michael Mupogu, Jonathan Parrott, Yasmin Alibai Brown, and Paul R. Stryker. And I am delighted that Neville and Christine have agreed to join that distinguished list. Thank you all for your support for tonight's event and for your support for our Peace Lecture, which is such an important time in our calendar. Enjoy the evening, and my very best wishes for a happy and peaceful future. With that, let me introduce Christine and Neville. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone. Hello. Lighten the mood a bit and say just thank you everyone for supporting us. Thank you our Lord Mayor, Lady Mayoress and all you wonderful people for coming out this evening to join us. You could be at home having a cup of tea, couldn't you? Yes. So I'm Sugary Staple, also known as Christine Sugary Staple, and this is my wonderful husband, Dr. Neville Staple, who you all, I'm sure, know and love as much as I do.
The original rude boy.
Yeah. Oh, he's going to play up. Be prepared, he's going to play up tonight.
Why not?
Yeah. And well, so we're going to start by opening with a little bit of history. A short clip, please. Sit down, you want to stay up?
On August 5th, 1962, Princess Margaret finally pulled down the Union Jack after more than 300 years of British rule in Jamaica. The soundtrack to this newfound freedom was the first truly Jamaican music, a newly invented ska. The story of modern Jamaican music starts in the early 1950s in the poorer areas of downtown Kingston with the emergence of a uniquely Jamaican phenomenon, still at the heart of the music 50 years later, the sound system.
Next slide, please. Okay, so you all saw Yasso, or how Neville would say it. Yasso. Okay, so that's basically saying right here, right now. So for us, the music's always been about here and now. So from the two-tone phenomenon of music to stuff I grew up with, it's all about talking about you, talking about me, talking about us, so that we all can be a collective, like one voice, one song that can mean so much to so many of us, which it often makes a hit song, and it could be just silly little lyrics, or it could be something with more importance importance to what we're going through in everyday life, like the two-tone music. So Neville grew up in Jamaica, where the sound system was actually like providing the news, wasn't it, Neville?
Yeah, even in England, coming from Jamaica, we had our sound system, which I've always toasted. Toast is what you might think is rap, but I've always toasted from a very early age, and straight up to the Jabadis before that. Like I said, I used to DJ, toasting, stuff like that.
Yeah, so back in Jamaica, oh, and I need to point out, I do apologise, Neville asked me to mention this. Most of you, again, know Neville's had 2 or 3 strokes, so sometimes you will see me prompting him. I might kick him now and again, but that's just me. But yes, I may prompt him now and again, or jump in and assist him with some of the memories and things that he has to say. But a lot of you know I already do that. So yeah, the whole toasting and lyrical messages were in early Jamaica and other Caribbean islands, but predominantly Jamaica. The music would go out there in the street, House of Joy, massive speakers, and those people had to have charisma. The person delivering it was often news, it was important political messages, it was sometimes just silly things, sometimes it was important things that they made fun of, but basically music would play and the DJ would have the microphone and literally chat, as you would call it, isn't it? Chatting lyrics.
Chatting lyrics.
Yes, so you would just say what's happening around you, moan about the system, moan about being poor, or moaning about, I don't know, rich neighbourhood coming in and taking your land, and it was all done. And I mean, a lot of this went way, way back to beyond slavery times, where being in the fields you sung to just, to keep yourself going. You would chant and go on about things. So this is something that's always been in black culture. But so the early sound system days was all about providing news, a bit of fun, wasn't it?
Yeah, because in Jamaica, where I was born, in the mountains, if we didn't have newspaper or anything like that. So if I wanted to say something or tell somebody about what was happening around the area, I would do chat. Banana chat. Sorry. I would chat. Right? So I would give you a message what's been happening around the area, which is how we used to do in Jamaica. At the time, no newspaper.
So you came really young, you brought that knowledge with you. I mean, you was literally primary school age, wasn't you, when you came? But you had that knowledge with you. So, of course, once Neville arrived in Coventry, first arrived in Rugby, came to Coventry and started his own sound system culture of Coventry. And you were probably one of the youngest on the circuit at the time, I hear. And was spotted by people like Ray King and stuff. So I think even if the specials hadn't happened, Neville was already doing some work and music and singing and chatting with Ray King anyway, wasn't
I was always doing that. I was always putting the lyrics down and stuff like that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Next slide, please. So this is some of the early stuff at the Holyhead Youth Club. Up there on the right is Neville in front of his Jabadis sound system speakers. They're the House of Joys that we've got at the house in Jamaica, that we've got up in the mountains. Bear in mind, Neville hates heights. This house is really high up in the mountains.
Yes.
So I don't know how you hate heights so much. So that's us in Jamaica, and then that's, I'm not sure the boy's name, but he was part of the Holyhead Youth Club in Coventry, and he's sitting on one of the huge Jabadis. I mean, these speakers are sometimes this side just one, and then you stack another on top, and often another. Sometimes you scaffold just to build it.
Same thing. I remember it, but because my memory is shot. Most of the guys who was with Jabadis, if I see them, the name will come to me. But because my memory is just shot, should we?
Yeah, no problem. But we don't have to remember everyone's name. So basically, the reason we're speaking about sound systems is that was a way of getting people together. People would come from all over the mountains, like Neville said, the different parts of the country, just to hear a sound system playing the music and sharing lyrics about life in general and trying to feel better about each other. So it created this kind of unified voice for everyone. I mean, sometimes it also caused a clash because people would be on opposing sides, a bit like, politicians arguing. This was like street politics, but that's what made it Yassa. It was here, it was now, it was right here with what you were experiencing today. Can we have the next slide, please? We're just going to play a little bit of a video clip, please.
When Jamaican music first arrived here in the 60s, it spoke mainly to the West Indian community. city. Ska and early reggae were little more than novelties, though they offered a new soundtrack for the working class teens, black and white. But during the 70s, British reggae came out on the streets. It joined forces with rock and then punk, a rebel sound that was changing British music. And by the 80s had become a mirror for the cultural and racial changes that were transforming Britain. While Britain transformed and absorbed reggae into the mainstream.
So that kind of relates to what we were saying about the families that came. Neville came to meet his family over here at a young age, and that culture sort of came with him and came with lots of other people. And in a lot of the inner city areas, this music gelled, like they said in the clip, with a lot of the working classes. There was a connection there, and it was everything from the young skinheads. And when I say skinheads, a lot of people go, ooh. Most of you here, especially if you're in from Coventry, you know that the original young skinheads were literally guys who were very much into the Jamaican sound. They liked to look tough. Yes, they shaved their hair or had suede heads, as they called it back then. And they embraced the whole Jamaican culture as well as other cultures. And it was sort of later in the 70s when sort of National Front and other groups were taking over that a lot of them, for their tough image and their street styles, got recruited up by lots of far-right groups. Which is how the whole bad culture of the skinhead was pretty much born around that time, and I witnessed this around friends I had at the time in London, because I wasn't always in Coventry. Do you want to say something about that, Babs?
The toasting?
Yeah.
Well, like I said, the skinhead. But we used to get some skinheads that was like the ruffians who wanted to fight National Front. But then you used to get them at the concert, and after a while listen to the music, then they listen to the lyrics after the dancing, and we used to have a lot of trouble. But I like Sherry says, after a while, we would get them who loved the music, and they'd listen to the lyrics, and they'll think, yes.
Yes.
But a lot of people used to get them like skinheads, they used to think they're all ruffians, but there wasn't.
No, and I grew up where there was a mixture of mods, skinheads, sound boys, you name it, a lot of mixed cultures in inner city London. So we had the same sort of thing, but we did have friends of ours, or who we assumed were friends, sort of got recruited over. But a lot of them came back when two-tone hit. So a bit like what Neville was saying, that yes, there was this sort of National Front thing going on, a lot of racism going on, but it was also a time where there was a lot of troubles in the UK in general, with minor strikes and high unemployment as we got nearer and nearer towards the 80s. So a bit like with the Brexit time and all the rest of it, which you'll see a little bit of that later, people start to get a little bit like they need to have a blame culture. They blame others for what's going on around them. It's sort of a human instinct for many, and we think that was a lot of what was going on at the time during those tough days.
Cardinal Newman School in the city to perform their poems about knife crime.
They've been talking about knife crime, actually, and earlier this week attended a workshop with the parents of Jimmy Mizzen. They founded a charity in his name following his death at the age of 16.
Performing their poems by the Knife Angel after winning a competition.
To me, peace is freedom, free from war, conflict and pain. But why can't we link on a chain with no war, conflict and pain? But what does peace actually mean? Peace means free from disturbance. But why can't we all sing as one and harmonise together? On the news, we see all the tension, and some people have to face the tears.
Put it down, drop that knife, he has a mum, he has a life.
So next time you see your family, don't forget to say how much they mean to you.
The world is full of fear, many people shedding tears when knives are around. A constant urge of power, opposing the evident flowers when knives are around.
The figures continue to increase, but the violence hasn't ceased. Voices cry out for change, but the voice of the knife is yet to be caged.
Just listening to the poetry that they were reading there, just having seen it, just envisioning them standing and reading it. With that's going to be a really special moment. That'll be really powerful, won't it?
Yeah, let's have that was, by the way, some, sorry, can we just go back one, sorry. That was some of the stage invasions that were going on. So what Neville was saying about a lot of these fans, they were very much, it started with a lot of trouble. He had like people seek-hiling and everything in some of the early clubs that they were performing in. And you ended up in some fights as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not condoning it, but because I wasn't used to people spitting at me, or Zeke-hiling. Like I'm on stage here now, there used to be the bad skinheads. They used to Zeke-hile, spit, and if they would get on stage, they'd want to fight. But then, because two-tone was not about fighting, it was getting together. So when I used to get all of this, it got really bad once it got so bad, there's about 20 of them. Zeke-hiles, about 10 of them spitting. So I had to jump in. I didn't have to, but because I weren't used to that, I jumped in and I kind of sorted it out.
Yeah.
No, and then the true fans got them out as well.
And that kind of started a trend, didn't it? Because what happened after that is a lot of fans were actually dealing with it for them. So if they saw, these people coming in to disrupt a show, they would actually get rid of them. And I think I've even seen a little bit of that in sort of modern days, sort of later on in life. Again, that might come up later. So yeah, that's what that is. So it went from the performing and dealing with all this abuse, literally it was abusive, to on the left there you'll see they started to have stage invasions. The fans were at one with the specials, they were in unity with you. I just about to see at the top there getting a bit squashed up.
But at the same time, when they used to come on stage, there were so many that came on stage. One time, the stage collapsed because we used to let them come up and dance. You had to So one time, we got loads of them on stage, the stage collapsed, and what did we do? Still kept on playing.
You'd never get away with it now.
Yeah.
And a lot of people know that my degree and my qualifications is health and safety management. I would never let you do it. But I haven't got that hat on today. Let's have a little look at the clip of a stage invasion from back then.
Stop it! Are you ready? Stop
That brings back so
yeah, rest in peace, John Bradbury there. Yeah, so that brings me on to sort of my past. That's me, as you can see. That's the bedroom where Nev was my pin-up. Who'd know, sort of 30 odd years later, I'd meet him and marry him. But this whole two-tone phenomenon put Coventry on the map for me as a young girl in London, and I was very much into. That's me on the left in the red top, in case you didn't recognise me. And I was very much. I was quite a tomboy as well, but I was very much. I mean, I saw Neville, fell in love instantly. He was my pin-up, and yeah. Don't know what happened years later, but no. So the whole two-tone phenomenon hit us hard in London and put Coventry on the map. I couldn't wait to see them. I tried to see them. I was a little bit young for most gigs. Can I have the next slide, please? So that was the gig where I listened from outside. The one on the left, that was in Camden, and the one on the right, I used to do a lot of marching and sort of socialist movement stuff. So we did a march up in Leeds, and that's when I finally got to see them properly, and that was absolutely amazing.
What do you remember this one?
The one on, the Electric Ballroom, I think you've filmed in there lots of times since then as well. So it hit us hard. It gave me a sense of identity, because we were growing up around people, and again, it was the here and now. We had a lot of punks on my estate, we had a lot of sound system guys, we had some rusters there, mods and scooterists, and most of us just went Rudy, literally overnight, because it embraced all the things we were used to. I grew up with a mixture of music. I've got mixed parentage, family from England, Scotland, the Caribbean, so I was already growing up with a lot of country and western stuff, wasn't it? Our parents played, but my mum loved ska, Prince Buster, all those kind of Stranger Cole, Derek Morgan. So I grew up with a lot of that sound, and even those early ska sounds from Jamaica had that theme where they were talking to you. You knew what they were talking about. It hit you. You knew everything they were saying in those songs, and whether it was a love song or whether it was just having a go at a neighbour, because sometimes the songs were kind of silly, they're just moaning about a neighbour next door who's given them the but you knew, because you had a neighbour somewhere like that. So it was quite interesting, and that's how it hit us, but more importantly it was that connection, that unity message from Two Tone. That's what got us more than anything else. Next slide, please.
We were united on the dance floor, dressed to kill, and if only for a moment, it felt like colour didn't matter.
Beautiful. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? The two-tone times.
Oh yeah, when the two-tone came, I just loved it, because I wasn't used to mixing in a group. I used to have white friends, Asian friends, but the two-tone brought us closer together, and that was one thing I loved about two-tone. I wasn't used to it. I used to have a lot of different nationality friends at school. But when I left school, that's when I used to see the rough part and the good part. So two-tone, for me, brought everything together. Black, white, Asian, all different culture.
Absolutely. Next slide, please. So this is the famous Bucks Stadium Racial Harmony gig of 1981, and that's Melanie there up in the top picture, along with Michael Cummings and Mark Domican. And this was when there was a lot of stuff. Have we missed a slide? Can I just go back one, please?
Yeah, this.
Oh yeah. So if you look at the bottom, there's Neville and Terry and the band performing up on the left, and obviously the bottom. Some of you may have seen these photos before. They've been on exhibition before. But there's all the trouble that's going on outside, because what happened? This was a racial harmony gig, and again, a lot of you will know that the police were worried, so they came out in full force because some far-right groups promised to come and just smash anyone's head in if they went along to this piece.
But at the same time, in Coventry, we played the Butts' specials. But in town, the National Front marched down to the Butts and tried to stop the show. But we carried on with the show. But there weren't as many people as there would have been because the National Front frightened them. But that was one peace gig we tried to do, Rock Against Racism, at the Butts in Coventry.
Yeah.
And we did do it, that was brilliant.
And that's what I love, the fact that they continued with it, and there was determined people outside who said, no, we will go, we want to be in there, and we're going to go in there. And I think because of that, I mean, I've heard from lots of witnesses that were there at the time, and from you, Neville, where because people stood together and stood firm and said, no, you're not going to disrupt this is us, this is for us, the people of Coventry. Eventually, the National Front members did fizzle out. I mean, there was still some trouble in town, which is where those pictures come from. But overall, the show went on. Next slide, please. So again, that's everyone enjoying themselves. As you can see, lovely mixed crowd. It actually worked great.
That's my daughter.
Yeah, looking great now. And the next slide, please. And this is like 40 years on.
Yes.
So what an amazing thing. We got them all together again, the three of them, to stand in the exact same place at the Bucks Stadium. And this is 40 years on. It's the anniversary this year. So here they are, still able to hug and enjoy each other's company. So, you know, that this is Coventry, right? Yeah, absolutely. Next slide, please. So this is what we want to point out. Obviously, we've got some Brexit stuff going on, some other far-right stuff going on, all sorts of stuff going on there, a bit more chaos over on the left. So while a lot of this is going on outside, next slide, please, this is what we're doing inside. Would you like to play that, please? So this is another stage invasion in our modern times. This is in the recent few years ago at the Belgrade Theatre. Will that not go any bigger, please? No, the stage didn't collapse, but we did get in a lot of trouble for allowing that to happen. It was great fun.
But I was told not to call them on stage, but because I was used to that, come and join us.
Because you're rude. It's not because you're used to it. You're just naughty. You like to be
they wanted to come on stage, so I said, come on.
Yeah, never sticks to the rules. Right, so this is Gary. So basically what we're saying here is the Yaso is about here and now. This is about lyrics that impact on our everyday life. And more importantly, it's the power of music. So throughout these slides we've been showing you, it's that power, it's music having that message. It's people getting together because of music. And, you know, a lot of you will see that with fashion. You might have in the 80s, I don't know, been new romantics and you all dressed a certain way, you hung out together, you had that joint message. So we're talking about the power of the type of music where literally is the narration of the life you're living in and how you're getting through each day. So this is Gary. Now, as it says there, National Front Skinner during the 70s and 80s. Gary is a DJ who's pretty well known now, and he travels all over the place as a DJ, and he's a very good friend of ours, believe it or not. Now, Gary was hanging out with a lot of National Fronts and got recruited, and he used to play music and DJ for these different far-right groups. And then one day, in his regular day job, he got on great with this Jamaican friend who he worked with, and they were chatting about the music, and the Skinhead culture has always enjoyed Jamaican music, regardless of whether they went sort of the National Front side or the more liberal side. And they were chatting about these famous artists that they loved, and they were singing along at work, literally in the warehouse, to all these songs they both knew. And they got on great, they started having coffee and lunch together. Then one day, Gary had this epiphany. I thought, what am I doing? He was on his way to one of his National Front groups, and he was just so surprised at himself because he suddenly realised this is ridiculous. I'm here causing all kinds of havoc instead of bringing peace to people. So he literally, can have the next slide, please. He became a sharp skinhead, and what that means is skinheads against racial prejudice. Okay, and then he's literally travelled the world with his own money to take that message of unity all around the globe. Literally, next slide please. And that's him at the press where they actually make the vinyl, because he's very much into vinyl like we are. In Jamaica, Gong Records. He literally went right into the heart of these places, into Kingston Town, Trench Town, everywhere. He's been to India, all over the place. Next slide, please. This is him with us at my Skarmouth events that I run, and that's all about unity. I don't know if you've heard of Skarmouth, but that's something aside from the acting and the performing with Neville and managing, I run Skarmouth, and Neville's our biggest supporter. These are some of the artists, Stranger Cole and the Ethiopians, some old time sort of ska stars that came, and Gary couldn't wait to meet them. Next slide, please. And here we come to, so that was Gary's story. Again, that's talking about the power of music. That's talking about Yaso, here, now, feeding that to your community, looking out for your community and joining together with things. So we didn't want to end without mentioning some of the other greats who brought peace through music and sometimes controversial issues through music. Obviously the great John Lennon and Bob Marley. There's obviously loads, we couldn't fit them all into one sort of short session. But because of this, we're going to play you something we was asked to do recently for a special charity, and we was asked to do this, and this was to do with peace in this charity that was asked for. Can you play the next slide, please?
This is the original Rude Boy Never Staple, along with Sugar. Imagine. I said imagine! Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. Just try. No hell below us. No, no, no. Above us only sky. Do you hear that?
Imagine all the people.
Imagine that.
Living for today. Yeah.
You might say I'm a dreamer. But I'm not the only one. I hope someday Imagine there's no country. Oh my, no. It isn't hard to do. Not at all. Nothing to kill or die for. And no religion too. Imagine all the people. Imagine that. Living life in peace. Come with it now. You might say I'm a dreamer. Wake up. But I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us. Come on, join me. And the world will be as one. Hey, listen. Imagine there's no Twitter. Imagine that. Facebook and thing. What you wanna do now? Live together and sing. Imagine we don't have no Twitter, Facebook and thing. And what you wanna do now? Live together and sing. We're peace. Imagine no possession. Give it up, man. Give it up. I wonder if you can. Can you? No need for greed or hunger. Craving. A brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people. Come now, people. Sharing all the world. Let's share the world. You might say I'm a dreamer. But I'm not the only one. Someday you'll join us. And the world will live as one. Let's live as one. Imagine there's no Twitter. Imagine that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor's Peace Committee, for inviting the Lady Mayoress and I to this peace walk. A very fitting, very moving event this morning. And I must confess, I've seen things I never knew existed before. Things like the choir of survivors and the memorial to civilians killed in war. For me, very poignant, and it does reflect what we're seeking to achieve, Lady Mayoress and I, with a recognition of the importance of animals and their contribution and support for their human friends. And we're developing that by laying a memorial on Remembrance Sunday, a purple poppy wreath, on behalf of those animals that have fallen in war, but not just that, to recognise the importance of animals to everybody and our privilege to call them our friends. And I think I'll stop. If Lady Mayoress would like to say a few words.
Yes, I would also like to thank the Peace Committee for this extremely interesting tour of a lot of articles that I sort of vaguely knew that they were there, but actually needed them pointing out as a reminder. And I think that reminder is very important, particularly at this time of remembrance. It's a poignant reminder of everything that Coventry went through during the darkest days, of people who are lost, and for people sometimes who are never named. We can mourn them as well. And as my husband said, one of the things that we are doing is also remembering the animals that fell during the war, those that served in the war, the horses on battlefields, the dogs that acted as stretcher bearers. And also, importantly, we also have mourned our enemies, those that we were in combat against. We mourn their loss as well. And that is very fitting for a city like Coventry, for peace, reconciliation, forgiveness, and yet we don't forget. So this sort of remembrance exercise is extremely important. So I thank the Peace Committee for that.
I'd like to add to that, because Lady Mercy's reminded me. We mourned our enemies, but we now have the privilege to call them our friends.